Class is in session. This is the Draft Seminar Rookie Profile Series hosted by Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, and I am joined, as always, by John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar. And this is the Jameson Williams Rookie Profile episode. John, Jameson Williams, the high-end productive wide receiver out of Alabama without the injury, might be considered a top one or two wide receiver option for most folks. And now it's a little bit more controversial. I'm excited to jump into this rookie profile.
I am also, my friend. And if it was 1 year ago, Jameson Williams was sitting on the Ohio State campus. Do you know he played spring football for the Buckeyes? And he has gone from Ohio State Buckeye to Alabama to most likely a first-round pick in the NFL. And he caught my eye in Alabama's opening game of the year last year against Miami. And I believe it was the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, he caught a 94-yard touchdown catch from Bryce Young. And Matt, I immediately went on Fantrax. What is his ownership percentage in college fantasy football? And it was less than 10%. So he was in my waiver wire column. How did he get from there to here? In high school, he was a 4-star recruit and the number 2 ranked prospect in Missouri by 24/7 Sports. He even was selected for the Under Armour All-American game. And from 2019 to 2020, he was a aforementioned Buckeye. But he played behind these two players named Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who were 1 year older, and he basically the same. I mean, what a recruiting class. But he could not get on the field with Wilson and Olave. In those 2 seasons in Columbus, he only had 15 catches for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Matt, I love the transfer portal. Can you imagine if this young man had stayed at Ohio State? He might not have even gotten on the field. So he goes to Alabama in the summer, and we were all fascinated. Who is going to get with Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle? We were all fascinated with the freshmen and the sophomores in Alabama and John Mechie. No mention of Jameson Williams. Well, what did the young man do? First team All-American, first team All-SEC, and SEC co-special teams player of the year. Matt, he returned 10 kicks and took 2 of them to the house. That's a 20% touchdown rate. I'll take that. He registered 15 touchdowns on 79 receptions. He scored 19% of the time he caught a pass. He eclipsed 100 yards receiving 7 times. Unbelievable season. He established a school record with 4 touchdowns beyond 70 yards, and he logged 7 scores from 30-plus yards. Just a simply incredible home run hitter. He's the 13th player to surpass 1,000 yards receiving in a season. How good was it? He was 3rd all-time single-season receiving yardage list with 1,572, trailing only the aforementioned Devonta Smith and then the Dallas Cowboys' Amari Cooper. Matt, I really liked watching this man play football. What does your film breakdown say?
Yeah, really, really fast player, John. I think we have to start there. A lot of folks were saying, especially with how quick the track seemed at the Combine this year, that it is a complete shame that we didn't get to see Jameson Williams run at the Combine, because he may have broken the all-time Combine record. That was a potential expectation. Jameson Williams comes from a family of track athletes, John. Ran track in high school. He's fast. And when it comes to straight line acceleration, he moves quick. He navigates across the field well. It's not just straight line speed, but he is an absolute burner along the sidelines. He's a good route runner, John. Despite his speed, he plays under control. He's got a twitch element to his route running that allows him to create space even against SEC defensive backs. He separates well downfield thanks in large part to his speed. He runs a nice curl route, John, a good corner route as well, and he's comfortable running routes effectively over the middle. So again, sometimes you get worried about these fast guys that they just play along the boundary and it's just like a huck it, chuck it football situation. It's not like that with Jameson Williams. He can work over the middle of the field as well, and he can work routes that require a good level of hip flexibility and a good level of being able to get through your routes. He's got really reliable hands, John, really consistent, good ball tracking ability, reacts well to off-target passes. Now, Jameson Williams is not going to be your contested catch guy, which could contrast a little bit if you're picturing a prototypical boundary X wide receiver, right? That's not what Jameson Williams is going to be. He struggles to hold on through contested catches. He doesn't quite have that level of vertical ability to go up and win those balls, but he still is a really well-rounded player, John. He's not just a fast guy, but he is a very fast guy. Let's dig into those numbers. Despite the small profile, John, they're still looking pretty good.
Oh, my God. They're super impressive, Matt. And when the Raiders drafted Henry Ruggs, they were hoping for Jameson Williams. I have Jameson Williams graded higher than Ruggs. He's a better prospect than Ruggs. And I know you gave him like an 81.6. I like him even more. This is one player Matt and I disagree on, and that's all right. That's what makes this video series and why I respect Matt so much. I have him at a 90. I like Jameson Williams a lot because of what he offers, even when he's not catching the football. I mean, you have to deal with that speed all the time as a defense. 94 career receptions, Matt. Basically, he played one season. That's outstanding. And I think the one thing you notice right away is the speed, which you mentioned, but he's such a fluid runner. I mean, you can see the track background. He learned so much as a runner in the high school and then with the family. It's just beautiful athleticism on the football field. And then he has these long arms, and he just tracks the ball and catches it beautifully in stride. That's why he averaged 19.6 yards a pop. That's outstanding, everyone. 18 career touchdowns. And look, one season on Alabama's campus, 67% catch rate, 31% team aerial dominator. Matt, if he wasn't on Alabama, I don't know if the Crimson Tide makes it to the postseason. He might have been the most important transfer of all the transfers last year because he became the Crimson Tides. I mean, obviously, Bryce Young won the Heisman, but I actually voted for Jameson Williams because I thought he made that offense click. And when he got injured against Georgia, the Crimson Tide stopped moving the football against the Bulldogs. Matt, 6'0", 179. He's going to be the fifth Alabama receiver in 3 years to be drafted in the first round. What your fantasy football players know about Jameson Williams?
Yeah, John, and before we dig into it a little bit, I just want to emphasize a point. It's incredible that Jameson Williams can transfer to Alabama, a school that is very, very picky with their transfers, and not only start right away, right off the bat. Remember, Alabama recruits whoever they want, right? And so for Jameson Williams to be able to come in and step in and immediately be the guy in that offense and learn and run a fairly diverse route tree, right? Like he picked up that playbook quickly. And so he's coming to an NFL team with a high football IQ as well, right? And it's encouraging for us to project production right off of the bat once he's back and healthy from injury. The injury is key, John. If Jameson Williams hadn't suffered that late season injury, he would have been riding the combine high, right? And I think he probably would have been locked into a top 10 to 15 NFL draft selection. There's going to be some teams that are off of him because of the injury. They're not going to want to wait till midseason to get their rookie wide receiver on the field. There's some teams that are going to be willing to wait. So it'll be interesting to see where his NFL draft stock goes. I currently have him day one late to day two mid. The wide receiver class is just so good, John, that NFL teams could opt to go for other guys before Jameson Williams. Nonetheless, I expect him to be productive once he's healthy, once he's back on the field. I have him projected in that weekly starter category, right? And so a guy who could be a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3, a consistent fantasy football asset for your team over the next 3 to 5 years. In terms of his ADP projection, there's enough folks out there, John, that like you have him even more, have even more faith and excitement in Jameson Williams than I do. So I think he's going to capture a late round 1 rookie ADP in your fantasy football superflex leagues, right? And so he's going to be a highly sought after wide receiver. And I'm going to get him where I can, John, especially if he ends up creeping over into the top of that second round there. I'd be willing to trade up and go after Jameson Williams. I think it's undeniable here that he's a top 5 wide receiver in this draft class. You could put him in a lot of, you could shake up those 5 guys in any order you want and have a good argument, but you have to consider Jameson Williams, even despite the injury and limited amount of college play time, to be a top 5 wide receiver. And John, I got to tell you, this podcast, it's a top 1 podcast when it comes to analyzing this rookie class. All right. So make sure you're subscribed, whether you're watching or whether you're listening. We appreciate you checking out this episode.